At the center of the armada floated the flagship World Killer, a massive dreadnought that had personally overseen the destruction of 50 civilizations. On the bridge of the World Killer, Supreme War Chief Thrax studied the tactical display with satisfaction. His 12-foot frame was covered in battle scars, each one representing a world he had conquered personally. His 4 arms ended in razor-sharp claws that had torn apart countless enemies, and his eyes glowed with the fire of a predator that had never known defeat. "War Chief," growled his second-in-command, Sub-Commander Thrax, "our sensors detect only a single enemy vessel near the alien station. It appears to be from the species they call humans." Thrax's mandibles clicked together in what passed for laughter among his kind. One ship. These pathetic creatures sent one ship to face the might of the Korthak Empire. He activated the fleet-wide communication system, his voice booming across all 4,000 vessels. "Warriors of Korthak, today we face an insult that cannot be forgiven. These weak aliens think one ship can stand against us. We will destroy this vessel and broadcast its death across the galaxy. Let all beings know what happens to those who dare oppose the Korthak Empire." Roars of approval echoed from every ship in the fleet. The Korthak lived for battle, and the thought of crushing such obvious defiance filled them with bloodthirsty joy. But as Thrax studied the sensor readings more carefully, his expression began to change. The human ship was unlike anything in their databases. Its energy signature was massive, far exceeding what should be possible for a vessel of its size. Its hull configuration was completely unknown, and their scanners were having difficulty penetrating its armor to determine its capabilities. "Sub-Commander," Thrax said slowly, "what do we know about this human species?" Thrax consulted his intelligence files. "Very little, War Chief. They joined the Galactic community 50 years ago, but have remained isolated. They appear to be a primitive species with limited technology. Our spies report that they still fight wars among themselves on their homeworld." Still fight wars? Thrax's eyes narrowed. Most civilized species had abandoned warfare centuries ago. The fact that humans still practiced combat was either a sign of barbaric primitiveness or something far more dangerous. The first exchange. On the bridge of the UES Retribution, Captain Rodriguez watched the Korthak fleet spread out into attack formation with professional interest. The enemy was following standard doctrine. Surround the target, concentrate firepower, overwhelm through superior numbers. It was effective against most opponents. "Captain," reported Lieutenant Patel, "incoming communication from the Korthak flagship." "Put it through." The main screen flickered to life, showing the terrifying visage of War Chief Thrax. His skull-like face was covered in ritual scars, and his eyes burned with malevolent intelligence. When he spoke, his voice was like grinding stone. "Human vessel, I am Supreme War Chief Thrax of the Korthak Empire. You have entered a combat zone where you do not belong. Surrender now, and your death will be quick. Resist, and we will make your suffering legendary across the galaxy." Rodriguez studied the alien's face with the detached interest of an entomologist examining a particularly unpleasant insect. "War Chief Thrax, I am Captain Sarah Rodriguez of the United Earth Ship Retribution. You are guilty of genocide, slavery, and crimes against sentient life. By the authority of the Terran Defense Force, I hereby sentence your empire to extinction." Thrax's expression showed confusion, then rage. "You dare threaten the Korthak Empire? You are one ship against 4,000. You are nothing." "We'll see," Rodriguez replied calmly, then cut the communication. She turned to her weapons officer, Lieutenant Commander James Wright, a man whose cybernetic implants allowed him to interface directly with the ship's targeting systems. "Mr. Wright, are you ready to make a statement?" Wright's smile was sharp as a blade. "Captain, I've been ready since we left Earth. All weapons systems are online and tracking multiple targets. Then let's show the galaxy what happens when you threaten innocent people." Rodriguez settled back in her command chair. Fire. The art of human warfare. What happened next would be studied by military historians for generations to come. The UES Retribution didn't simply attack the Korthek fleet. It demonstrated the difference between primitive brutality and advanced warfare. The ship's primary weapons were humanity's most closely guarded secret: quantum disruptor cannons that could tear apart matter at the subatomic level. When they fired, they didn't create the flashy energy beams that most species used. Instead, they projected invisible fields that simply made their targets cease to exist. Chen Wei stood up slowly, his dark eyes scanning the assembled delegates. When he spoke, his voice was calm and measured, but there was something in his tone that made everyone listen carefully. With respect, Chancellor, you know very little about humanity. We have been watching the Korthek situation develop, and we have been preparing. Earth may not have the largest fleet in the galaxy, but we have something else. We have experience. Experience with what? Demanded General Vex, his reptilian features twisted with skepticism. Experience with war, Chen Wei replied simply. Real war. Total war. The kind of war where entire civilizations hang in the balance and mercy is a luxury no one can afford. You have had peace for so long that you have forgotten what it means to truly fight for survival. The chamber buzzed with uncomfortable murmurs. Most species in the Galactic Union had evolved beyond warfare centuries, or even millennia ago. They settled disputes through negotiation, trade agreements, and cultural exchange. The concept of organized violence on a massive scale was alien to them. Ambassador Thek leaned forward on her platform. Even if your species has military experience, surely you cannot face the entire Korthek Empire alone. They have thousands of ships and billions of warriors. Chen Wei's expression didn't change. Numbers aren't everything, Ambassador. Sometimes, it's not about how many ships you have. It's about what those ships can do. Earth's cold response. The vote to contact Earth was close, but desperation won out over skepticism. The quantum communication array sent a priority message across the void to the Sol system, requesting immediate military assistance against the Korthek threat. The message included detailed intelligence about Korthek fleet movements, their military capabilities, and the locations of their main staging areas. The response came back within hours. It was brief, cold, and completely unexpected. Galactic Union Command, this is Earth Defense Command. Your request for peacekeeping forces has been reviewed and denied. Peacekeepers are unavailable for this situation. We are dispatching an alternative solution instead. Recommend all Union vessels maintain minimum safe distance of 1 million kilometers from combat zone. Earth Defense Command out. Chancellor Morex read the message 3 times before he fully understood it. Alternative solution. What does that mean? No one had an answer. Humanity had never been particularly communicative about their military capabilities. They had shared some basic defensive technologies with the Union, but their warships were rarely seen outside the Sol system. Most delegates assumed this was because human technology was too primitive to be useful in modern warfare. Chen Wei received his own private communication from Earth shortly after the official response. When he read it, his face went pale. Ambassador, Chancellor Morex asked, can you provide any clarification about your government's response? Chen Wei looked up from his communication device, and for the first time since the crisis began, there was something like hope in his eyes. They're sending the retribution, he said quietly. The what? The UES Retribution. It's... Chen Wei paused, searching for the right words. It's not a peacekeeping vessel. The arrival of humanity's answer. 2 days later, the long-range sensors detected something approaching the Galactic Union headquarters. The signature was unlike anything in their databases. The vessel was moving at incredible speed, faster than any ship they had ever recorded. Its energy output was off the charts, and its configuration was completely alien to their understanding of spacecraft design. As the ship drew closer, its true size became apparent. The UES Retribution was enormous, nearly 3 kilometers long and bristling with weapon systems that the Union's computers couldn't even identify. Its hull was matte black, absorbing light rather than reflecting it, making it look like a piece of the void itself given shape and purpose. Unlike the elegant flowing designs favored by most galactic civilizations, the Retribution looked like it had been forged in the heart of a dying star for the sole purpose of dealing death. Every line, every angle, every surface spoke of violence and destruction. There were no viewing ports, no decorative elements, no concessions to aesthetics. It was a weapon in the shape of a ship, and it radiated menace like heat from a fire. The vessel took up position near the Union headquarters and simply waited. No communication came from it. No requests for docking permission or diplomatic protocols. It just hung there in space like a predator waiting for its prey to make the first move. Captain Sarah Rodriguez and her crew. On the bridge of the UES Retribution, Captain Sarah Rodriguez studied the tactical displays with the cold precision of a surgeon examining a patient. She was a woman in her 40s with steel-gray hair and eyes that had seen too much combat. Scars marked her face and hands, souvenirs from boarding actions and ground assaults that would have broken lesser warriors. The bridge around her was a study in functional efficiency. Every surface was armored, every system was redundant. Every crew member was a veteran of humanity's most classified military operations. The lighting was dim red, designed to preserve night vision and create an atmosphere of controlled aggression. Status report, Rodriguez said quietly, her voice carrying absolute authority, despite its low volume. Commander Marcus Stone, her executive officer, looked up from his station. The big man's cybernetic left arm gleamed in the red light as he operated his controls. All weapon systems online and ready, Captain. Reactor output at 110%. The ship is ready for combat. Defensive systems. Armor plating locked and loaded, reported Lieutenant Diana Vasquez from the engineering station. Shield generators are charged and standing by. Point defense systems are active and tracking multiple targets. Rodriguez nodded and turned to her communications officer. Miss Patel, any word from the Korthik fleet? Lieutenant Priya Patel's fingers danced across her console as she monitored dozens of communication channels. Long-range sensors show a massive fleet approaching, Captain. Estimated arrival in 6 hours. Intelligence suggests over 4,000 vessels, ranging from fighters to dreadnoughts. 4,000 ships, Stone muttered. They're bringing everything they have. Rodriguez allowed herself a small, cold smile. Good. It will save us the trouble of hunting them down later. The communications console chimed with an incoming message from the Union headquarters. Rodriguez gestured for Patel to put it through. UES Retribution. This is Chancellor Morix of the Galactic Union. We welcome you to our system and thank Earth for its assistance. However, we must express our concern about the approaching Korthik fleet. Perhaps it would be wise to coordinate with our remaining peacekeeping forces for a combined defensive strategy. Rodriguez looked at the tactical display showing the positions of the Union ships. 300 vessels spread out in a defensive formation that would have been impressive against pirates or raiders. Against the Korthik armada, they would last perhaps 10 minutes. She activated the communication system. Chancellor Morix, this is Captain Rodriguez of the UES Retribution. I appreciate your offer of coordination, but it won't be necessary. Please direct all Union vessels to withdraw to a safe distance. We'll handle this. Captain, surely you don't intend to face 4,000 enemy ships with a single vessel, no matter how advanced. Rodriguez's smile grew colder. Chancellor, you called for help because your peacekeeping forces weren't sufficient for this situation. Earth doesn't send peacekeepers. We send problem solvers. The Korthik Empire is a problem that needs to be solved permanently. There was a long pause before the Chancellor responded. Captain, we had hoped for negotiation, perhaps some form of diplomatic solution. There is no negotiation with genocidal slavers, Rodriguez replied, her voice hard as steel. There is no diplomacy with those who murder children and enslave entire civilizations. There is only one language that the Korthik Empire understands, and we are here to speak it fluently. The communication ended, leaving the bridge of the Retribution in silence. Rodriguez turned to study the approaching enemy fleet on her tactical display. 4,000 ships carrying the worst monsters the galaxy had ever produced, coming to finish what they had started. Behind her, the crew of the Retribution prepared for battle with the calm efficiency of professional killers. They had trained for this moment their entire lives. They were humanity's answer to the darkness that lurked between the stars, and they were about to show the galaxy what happened when Earth decided that enough was enough. In 6 hours, the Korthik Empire would learn why humanity had never needed peacekeepers. They were about to discover that some problems could only be solved with overwhelming violence, and that Earth had spent centuries perfecting the art of controlled destruction. The galaxy was about to witness the birth of humanity's reputation as the most terrifying force in known space. When humanity answers the call, the Korthik Armada arrives. Space itself seemed to darken as the Korthik fleet emerged from hyperspace. 4,000 vessels of destruction materialized in perfect formation, their black hulls adorned with the skull and claw symbols of their empire. The desperate call. The Council of Worlds faces extinction. The emergency alarms echoed through the massive Galactic Union headquarters like the death cries of a dying civilization. Ambassador Zarathek of the Velaran Republic rushed through the crystalline corridors, her silver skin pale with terror. The emergency session had been called after the latest reports arrived from the Outer Rim worlds. The news was worse than anyone had imagined. The Grand Assembly Hall stretched before her like a cathedral of despair. Representatives from over 200 species filled the floating platforms that orbited the central speaking chamber. The aquatic delegates from Poseidon Prime floated in their environmental suits, their tentacles writhing with anxiety. The crystalline beings from the Silicum Consortium flickered with nervous energy, their bodies casting rainbow reflections across the walls. Even the proud avian lords from the Eagle Nebula sat hunched over, their magnificent feathers dulled with fear. At the center of it all stood Chancellor Morax, the ancient leader of the Galactic Union. His 4 arms gestured helplessly as he tried to maintain order among the panicking delegates. His usually calm voice cracked with emotion as he spoke. "Fellow beings of the Union," Chancellor Morax began, his words translated instantly into hundreds of languages. "We gather today not to celebrate our achievements, but to face our potential extinction. The Korthik Empire has struck again." A holographic display materialized above the chamber, showing the devastation left behind on the agricultural world of New Harvest. What had once been a paradise of golden wheat fields and crystal-clear rivers was now a smoking wasteland. Cities lay in ruins, their populations either dead or dragged away in chains to serve as slaves in the Korthik mining colonies. Ambassador Thek felt her heart sink as she watched the footage. New Harvest had been home to 12 billion peaceful farmers who had never harmed anyone. They grew food that fed half the galaxy and shared their knowledge freely with all who asked. Now they were gone, victims of the Korthik Empire's unstoppable war machine. The Korthik Empire's reign of terror. The Korthak were nightmares made flesh. Standing nearly 12 feet tall, their bodies were covered in thick, chitinous armor that could deflect energy weapons. Their faces were dominated by rows of razor-sharp teeth and eyes that glowed with malevolent intelligence. They had evolved on a death world where only the strongest and most vicious survived, and they had brought that philosophy to the stars. For the past 5 years, the Korthik Empire had been expanding across the galaxy like a plague. They showed no mercy to those who surrendered, no interest in negotiation or diplomacy. They simply arrived, conquered, and enslaved. Entire civilizations that had existed for thousands of years were wiped out in days. "The situation is now critical," Chancellor Morax continued, his voice heavy with despair. "In the past month alone, we have lost 17 worlds. The Korthik fleet now numbers over 5,000 warships, each one capable of destroying a planet. Our own peacekeeping forces consist of barely 300 vessels, designed for humanitarian missions, not warfare." General Vex, the military commander of the Union forces, stood up on his platform. The reptilian warrior's scales were scared from countless battles, but even he looked defeated. "Honor delegates," he said in his gravelly voice, "I must speak plainly. Our ships were built to stop small conflicts between trading partners and to deliver aid to disaster zones. They are no match for the Korthek war machine. If we engage them in direct combat, our entire fleet will be destroyed within hours." The chamber erupted in panicked voices. Some delegates called for immediate surrender, hoping the Korthak might show mercy to those who submitted quickly. Others suggested fleeing to the furthest reaches of space and hiding until the storm passed. A few brave souls spoke of fighting to the end, but their voices were drowned out by the sounds of despair. A desperate suggestion. In the midst of the chaos, a small voice spoke up from one of the lower platforms. "What about the humans?" The chamber fell silent. All eyes turned to Ambassador Chen Wei of the Sol Federation. The human was small compared to most of the other delegates, standing only 6 feet tall with unremarkable brown skin and black hair. His species had joined the Galactic Union 50 years ago, but they had always kept to themselves, trading quietly and avoiding galactic politics. Chancellor Morex's expression showed confusion. "Ambassador Chen, surely you cannot be serious. Your species is barely more advanced than the primitive worlds we protect. What could Earth possibly offer in this situation?" Rodriguez's expression didn't change. "We are what happens when a species spends its entire history learning how to fight. We are what you get when evolution favors not the strongest or the fastest, but the most adaptable. We are the answer to predators like you." She paused, looking directly into the camera. "The galaxy asked for peacekeepers, but Earth doesn't send peacekeepers. Peace isn't something you keep with pretty words and treaties. Peace is something you enforce with strength. And when someone threatens innocent people, we don't negotiate. We don't compromise. We solve the problem permanently." The new galactic order. In the weeks that followed, the story of the Battle of the Korthek Fleet spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Species that had cowered in fear for years suddenly found their voices. The slave worlds of the Korthek Empire were liberated by Galactic Union forces, their populations freed after years of suffering. The surviving Korthek warriors were processed according to galactic law. Many were imprisoned for life. Others were assigned to reconstruction efforts on the worlds they had destroyed. War Chief Thrax himself was sent to a maximum security facility, where he would spend the rest of his very long life contemplating the price of underestimating humanity. But the most significant change was in how the galaxy viewed Earth and its inhabitants. Ambassador Chen Wei found himself suddenly very popular at diplomatic functions. Species that had barely acknowledged humanity's existence now sought trade agreements, defense pacts, and cultural exchanges. Chancellor Morex summoned Chen Wei to a private meeting in his office. The ancient alien's 4 arms gestured with a mixture of respect and apprehension. "Ambassador," the Chancellor said, "I must ask directly. How many ships like the Retribution does Earth possess?" Chen Wei's expression was carefully neutral. "That information is classified, Chancellor, but I can tell you that the Retribution is not unique." The Chancellor's skin paled to a lighter shade of blue. "I see. And your government's intentions toward the Galactic Union. Earth has no territorial ambitions beyond our own system." Chen Wei replied, "We joined the Union because we believe in cooperation and peaceful coexistence. But we also believe that sometimes cooperation requires the ability to defend yourself and your allies from those who would destroy what you've built together." The Chancellor nodded slowly. "And if another threat like the Korthek Empire emerges?" Chen Wei's smile was polite but cold. "Then Earth will send another alternative solution: humanity's reputation." In the months that followed, Earth became known throughout the galaxy as the species you never wanted to fight. Pirates avoided human shipping lanes. Aggressive governments thought twice before making threats. Slavers and genocidal empires found other hobbies. Captain Rodriguez and the crew of the Retribution returned to Earth as heroes, but their victory had been more than just military. They had established humanity's place in the galactic community not as the weak newcomers who needed protection, but as the guardians who provided it. The galaxy had learned a fundamental truth about the species from the small blue world orbiting an unremarkable yellow star. Humans didn't send peacekeepers because they had evolved beyond the need for them. They had never stopped fighting, never stopped improving their ability to project force, never stopped preparing for the day when peaceful coexistence would require the application of overwhelming violence. Earth's message to the galaxy was simple and clear: threaten the innocent, and you would face humanity's wrath. There would be no negotiation, no compromise, no mercy for those who chose evil over good. Peace wasn't something you kept through weakness and appeasement. Peace was something you enforced through strength, and humanity had become very, very good at enforcement. The galaxy was a safer place because of it. In his final report to Earth Command, Captain Rodriguez wrote, "Mission accomplished. The Korthic Empire has been neutralized. Galactic stability restored. No further action required at this time." But she also added a personal note: request permission to maintain patrol schedule. The galaxy is a big place, and there are always more predators waiting for their chance to strike. Humanity stands ready to provide alternative solutions as needed. Earth Command's response was brief: permission granted. Continue patrol. Well done, Captain. And so the UES Retribution continued its journey through the stars, a dark guardian watching over the peaceful civilizations of the galaxy. Its mere existence served as a reminder that somewhere out there, humanity was watching, waiting, and ready to respond to any threat with the full fury of a species that had never forgotten how to fight. The first salvo struck 12 Korthak heavy cruisers simultaneously. The proud warships, each one capable of destroying a city, simply vanished. One moment they were there, the next moment there was nothing but empty space where they had been. No explosions, no debris, no trace that they had ever existed. The Korthic fleet reacted with shock and confusion. Their sensors couldn't even detect how the human ship was attacking them. They returned fire with everything they had: plasma cannons, fusion missiles, gravity bombs, weapons that could crack planets. The barrage that struck the Retribution should have vaporized it instantly. Instead, the human ship's shields absorbed the incredible assault without even flickering. The defensive systems that humanity had developed were based on principles that the rest of the galaxy couldn't even comprehend. Where other species used simple energy barriers, humans had created multi-dimensional shields that existed partially outside normal spacetime. Minimal damage to outer hull plating, reported Lieutenant Vasquez from engineering. Shield generators operating at 97% efficiency. Rodriguez nodded as if she had expected nothing less. Continue firing, Mr. Wright. Let's show them what surgical precision looks like. The tide of battle. The battle became a masterclass in applied violence. The Retribution moved through the Korthic fleet like a shark through a school of fish, its weapons systematically destroying enemy vessels with terrifying efficiency. The human ship didn't just attack. It prioritized targets, coordinated strikes, and executed maneuvers that seemed to violate the laws of physics. War Chief Thrax watched in growing horror as his mighty fleet was dismantled piece by piece. How is this possible? He roared at his bridge crew. 4,000 ships cannot be defeated by one. War Chief, stammered his sensor operator. The human vessel appears to have some form of advanced maneuvering system. It's moving faster than our targeting computers can track. Indeed, the Retribution was demonstrating humanity's mastery of combat engineering. The ship could accelerate, decelerate, and change direction in ways that should have turned its crew into paste from the key forces involved. But human inertial dampening technology, developed through centuries of interplanetary warfare, allowed the vessel to maneuver like a fighter while maintaining the firepower of a dreadnought. Commander Stone watched the tactical display with professional satisfaction. Captain, we've eliminated approximately 40% of their fleet. Enemy formation is beginning to break apart. Rodriguez studied the battle display. The Korthic ships were starting to scatter, their rigid formation dissolving into chaos as individual captains tried to save themselves. It was exactly what she had expected. Bullies were always brave when they had overwhelming advantages, but they folded quickly when faced with superior force. "Target their command ship," she ordered. "Let's end this." The death of an empire. The World Killer, pride of the Korthik fleet, found itself suddenly alone as the human ship closed in. The massive dreadnought's weapons blazed desperately, pouring enough firepower to destroy a moon directly at the Retribution. The human ship absorbed the assault and returned fire with methodical precision. War Chief Thrax felt something he had never experienced before: fear. As his ship's systems failed one by one under the human attack, he began to understand that he was facing something far beyond his comprehension. This wasn't just advanced technology. This was the product of a species that had turned warfare into an art form. "War Chief," reported his communications officer, "we're receiving surrender signals from across the fleet. Ships are breaking off and requesting quarter." Thrax's world collapsed around him. The Korthik Empire had never surrendered to anyone. They conquered or they died. There was no middle ground. But faced with the impossible efficiency of human warfare, his warriors were choosing survival over honor. On the bridge of the Retribution, Captain Rodriguez received the surrender signals with cold satisfaction. "Mr. Wright, ceasefire. Open a channel to all Korthak vessels." Her image appeared on screens throughout the surviving enemy fleet. When she spoke, her voice carried the absolute authority of victory. "Korthak fleet, this is Captain Rodriguez. Your war is over. Any vessel that attempts to leave this system will be destroyed. Any vessel that approaches a populated world will be destroyed. You will remain here until Galactic Union peacekeeping forces arrive to process your surrender." War Chief Thrax's voice crackled over the communication system, broken and defeated. "Human, what are you? How did one ship destroy an empire?"